Is road racing dead?
We're going to talk about the decline of the domestic road racing scene in Ireland, where I'm living, but also in the UK and in the US.
Okay, first question. Is road racing actually dying, Anthony? My local calendar has fewer races every year and it feels like everyone's either gravel racing or just doing fondos. Is this just a phase, or are we watching the slow death of traditional road racing?
Oh, this question's painfully close to the bone. We covered a few weeks ago, Ireland losing one of its big Criterium series, which actually has come back. Another club has taken it on. But Easter weekend is coming up on the calendar here in Ireland. Easter weekend was the biggest weekend of domestic racing on the calendar. Only a couple of years ago, like pre-pandemic, we had the Gory 3-Day, Rossmoon and Tour of Ulster. All of those were 150 plus riders, all sold out. You couldn't get into these races. Now we're down to one, just Rossmoon, because it was announced during the week that Gory 3-Day, a really famous historic race with great riders have won it in the past. Only 21 riders registered across Cat 2, Cat 3, juniors and masters, including M40 masters who are Cat 1s. So just terrible turnout for a famous historic race. But it seems to just mirror wider trends across. The Irish cycling calendar has just totally fallen apart. I could rattle off races that, just aren't there anymore, from Visit Nina Classic, Swords GP, Stamullen, Balbriggan. It's the calendar doesn't resemble the calendar of 10 years ago. And look, we can get into it in a minute and debating what's causing this. Is it, wider economic circumstances, shifting trends, or massive incompetence in cycling Ireland? Definitely a lot of incompetence in cycling Ireland are accelerating, I think, some wider trends. But it's not just Ireland. We're seeing Tour of Britain has lost some of its biggest races. Tour of Yorkshire's gone. Tour of Britain is gone. The St. Piran Continental team, which has just been a powerhouse in the Premier calendar for the last few years, has fallen apart. Again, in the US, like I've raced out there and it's a special place in my heart. But the big pro races like Tour of California, Tour of Utah, both gone. So, and that's the pro level racing, but that pro level is then having a trickle down effect, it seems, and it's just total atrophy of domestic cycling scene in Ireland, UK, US. And I'd be curious, wherever you're listening to this podcast, if you're listening on Apple or YouTube, pop us a message or a comment and let us know what the local cycling scene is like in your area.
Yeah, or why you think it's been failing so badly over the last couple of years. I mean, we do know that bike sales overall have started to slip, and the bike industry has slowed down a lot in the last couple of years since the pandemic, that big massive boom that we had during COVID. And we just pulled a report from the UK, and it's from its Cycling Trade Association. Bike sales in the UK dropped again last year. There was only 1.45 million bikes sold, which is about 2.5% less than in 2023. And 2023 was already the worst year for bike sales since 1985, with just 1.55 million bikes sold. And again, as I mentioned, the decline totally started in 2022 when sales fell by 22%. Again, that was after the big kind of rise during the pandemic of, that big boom we saw everybody on bikes. So it's not just Ireland, it's not just the UK, it's the US,
bike sales are
everywhere.
back to 1970s levels,
Yeah.
I read somewhere, which is absolutely crazy. There's definitely a shift towards gravel cycling, but I don't know, that doesn't explain. Look, we're not here to answer the declining bike sales, we're talking about the declining road racing scene. And I think the industry's ate itself a little bit with gravel cycling, a shrinking number of participants now being more widely dispersed between club leagues, gravel races, increasing popularity and professionalism of fondos, and road racing, whereas historically we didn't have as many different outlets for cycling. It is brilliant that we have more outlets, but also you look at the success of the Lifetime Grand Prix series in the US, it's a runaway success. And then you look at the debt of the Irish road racing scene in Ireland. What's the big difference there? It's leadership. Kimo Seymour is doing an absolutely phenomenal job in the US, and we have some absolute cretins running Irish cycling.
Oh God, say how you really feel. It is, I don't know, it's, for me, I don't do road racing. I mean, I think particularly it's very bad for pulling women into the sport. Again, in the Irish scene, it's funny in the Irish scene, and maybe again, listeners, you'll see the same where you are, but we have girls who are there. We've got Lara Gillespie, and we've got a lot of UAE riders, a lot of World Tour female riders. And then it feels like they come back to Ireland and knock that living shit out of the girls who are racing week in, week out, at kind of key events. That becomes quite disheartening.
But that's always going to happen if you have a total disparity. Like, if Nicholas Roach back in the day came back to race domestic. Yeah. They're racing at totally different levels.
I think it's just hard, getting women into racing as well. And at the end of the day, we're 50% of the population. We should be represented more within racing. Another study that I saw in the UK, it was done by Cycling UK. It revealed that 58% of women cited safety concerns and inadequate infrastructure as their barriers to cycling. And that can kind of deter people from training. And you need to train in order to race. So there's steps being missed there.
Yeah, I don't love the infrastructure argument, because the roads, we've never had more bike paths than before. Now, we've never had more close passes than before as well. So I don't know the answer to that one. Close passes is obviously, and deaths on the road. We've covered it, and quite tragic podcast with Sean Landers last year, where his girlfriend Gabby was tragically hit and killed out in a train accident. So safety concerns are massively to the forefront of our thoughts, but I'm not sure if, women cycling, we should have more women in cycling, but historically we haven't had many women in cycling.
That's not what's causing the decline in road racing.
So I don't know the answer. I'm definitely curious to know what people think.
I don't know, is it a really bad I mean, look, obviously it's a bad thing that there's been such a fall off with road racing, but cycling and events seems more inclusive now than even 7-8 years ago when I first met you.
Going for inclusive though?
Yeah, we are going for inclusive to get more people into the sport and more people training for events.
But there's a bit of a paradox there. It's more inclusive. There's fewer people than ever doing it.
Doing road racing, but there's more people doing events like gravel racing and fondos.
I don't know if that's...
You don't think so?
I don't know. Like, maybe.
I mean, have you ever seen more people on the road or more groups on the road? There's...
A lot more people on the road, for sure.
Yeah.
But then a lot fewer people at races. Another one really interesting, and we'll finish up on this because we're beating it to death, is the boom in mountain biking here in Ireland. They opened a trail in Ticknock, which is our local mountain bike trail centre. Greg O'Callaghan opened the trail last week with zero Cycling Ireland participation into it. I'm going to say conservatively they had 200. I was in Ticknock yesterday and I asked the guy working in the cafe, I said, looked like there was 200 people, and he's like, way more than 200 people out for a real grassroots movement where volunteers dug out the trails, built it themselves. It's a phenomenal good news story. How we harness that, I don't know. They've tapped into social media culture, influencer culture. So many people made YouTube videos of the trail opening, and that honestly made my decision to go out and ride the trails yesterday.
Yeah, but it's also there's a different vibe in mountain biking than there is in road racing. I always say it. I was completely shocked when I first started going out with you and I would go to races with you. I kind of came from doing triathlon where there was always such an event made.
Everyone's a winner.
But there was such an event made. There was like, okay, you're skeptical. You obviously hated it. You're like, oh, everyone shouldn't get a medal. Not everyone got a medal, but everyone after got a free beer. There was a burger joint there. Whereas you went, I go to races with you, you'd stand on the side of the road or in the middle of an industrial estate. And then as soon as you were over the line, you got in your car and you went. And it was just like this kind of very cold, unfriendly kind of feeling to it. Now, I know that you kind of prided yourselves on that, being like, oh, well, I'm a tough guy. I don't talk to that arsehole. He's my enemy or whatever. But we do need to foster maybe a little bit more of a sense of community within road racing.
And that got even better. Like, because I was chatting to Aidan Duff, the 51 founder, about this. And it's like, oh, it's, I kind of missed the meeting up in an industrial estate and a few of the best guys just hammering stuff out of each other. He's like, that's way more inclusive. It used to be meeting up in an industrial estate in North Korea. Guys not convinced out of each other.
Okay, next question. This is my first year stepping up to racing. I've been riding my bike for about 2 years. The usual story. Started off commuting, then joined a Saturday group, did some sportifs, and now I'm making the jump to road racing. Apart from the training, which I think I've done as well as I can, what are the other things that I need to know? Even something as small as how long before the race do I show up, what warm-up do I do, my kit and food.
starts the night before with your meal, checking the weather, packing your bag, all those bits. Morning of the race, breakfast. And you know what I'm going to say here? Our breakfast calculator. Everyone's just getting breakfast wrong. So we're going to drop the link down below again for our breakfast calculator. It's super easy. Put in how long your event is going to be. Put in the expected intensity. It's going to be a zone 3, zone 4. Put in your weight, and it's going to tell you how many grams of carbohydrates you need for breakfast. You're going to be shocked at how many grams of carbohydrates you need for breakfast. I had a long gravel ride with a teammate of mine in Roadman yesterday as the day of recording. But the night before, I used the breakfast calculator to figure out how many grams of carbs I needed. And then I had to make like a huge stack of pancakes from Alan Murchison's cycling chef book to get ready for it. Because like you can't sleep on that amount of carbs you need. Can you get through the ride without it? Yeah, if you're doing a 2-3 hour ride. But if you're doing longer stuff or high intensity, you're just leaving a lot of easy gains on the table by poorly fueling. Kind of trying to run through these sequentially in my head. Arriving to the race 1.5 to 2 hours before the race was always my kind of time, depending on your setup. Here we have numbers for the whole season. Other places you need to go to packet pick up and get your numbers. Also gives you time to figure out you get any mechanicals when you're packing the bike in the car. If you broke a spoke, bent a derailleur mech, it's going to give you time to mentally settle in and to warm up. And when you're not rushing around, cortisol is lower, legs are better.
Yeah, and like when you're racing, I remember we went to one of your races a few years ago and we had the biggest Barney on the way there over something. I think we were running late. We were only going to get there like 30 minutes before. Stress levels were high. And when we got there, you were like, whoa, I am not in the frame of mind to go into a bunch.
You sure this is me? I don't remember
this. This is definitely you. Go into a bunch and be in that kind of, dangerous position of having loads of riders around you. And look, road racing can be quite dangerous. So you do want to give yourself that nice zen lead-in time to it, don't you? You don't want to go in a glass half empty kind of.
Also, if you end up forgetting something, if you're super frazzled, especially when you're packing the car, we should make a checklist, a race checklist. I'm in the process of making a stage race and a holiday cycling checklist for inside in our Roadman toolkit where the breakfast calculator is. But we should also make a race day checklist and put it in there for people.
That would have been good for you as well. Sorry, just things keep coming back to me here. Remember we travelled about 2.5 hours to a race before, and when you got there you'd completely forgotten
your bike.
No, I think you had your bike. It was your kit
bag.
I
forgot my bike before as well.
Did you? Yeah. That wasn't me. That was definitely somebody else.
I forgot my bike. I got to the car park, got into my kit and looked in the back. I was like, yeah, I don't have a bike.
What did you do?
Just drove home, my kit,
my
helmet on.
We drove in. We kind of, we parked up. You realised you didn't have your kit bag, and we kind of like
just drove
snuck out.
Through the car
Everyone's
park.
like, where is he going?
So checklist: jersey, bibs, skin suit, arm warmers, leg warmers, shoe covers, shoes, heart rate strap, base layer,
like bring everything.
Helmet.
Even if the weather is going to be amazing, bring everything.
A big bag. I can't remember what's the brand I'm using. Is it Evoque?
Yeah.
The bag. I have a big, and it's like a bag you take on a 2-week holiday, but there's segments inside. It's partitioned, so you're not just throwing everything in. And I literally bring winter kit, summer kit, time trial kit, all inside. Spare shoes, spare helmet, everything all in one bag. Race numbers, race license. I said helmet, shoes, gloves, pins, chamois cream, sun cream, spare wheels, bike computer, spare mounts, spare hangers, towel, post-race clothes, post-race food. I'll work on that list.
Yeah, I think you definitely do need a list because there's a lot there.
Night before we talked about that. That's just fueling and a bit of hydration and your food for the race. Sorry, this is a bit scattered all over the place. Warming up is another thing I would do. I don't really love to warm up and go very far in case you puncture. So I don't suggest if you're doing a 30-minute warm up that you go 15 minutes out the road and come back, because you could puncture at your furthest distance away and then you're going to miss the start of the race. Turbo trainer, rollers, or just warming up and down the same road close to the car so you can rim it back if you need to. I think it's a good idea, especially if you're new or into a club, to introduce yourself to teammates if you haven't met them, so you at least know someone in the race. Just generally being like, don't take it too serious. Have fun, make friends. You don't need to make enemies in the bunch. Even moving through the group, it's so much easier to move through the group if you know people.
If you're sound about it.
If you can just hey, instead of like trying to lean on people, especially in just parts of the race where the race is on and it's like last K for position or the fight for position into a climb. It's parts of the race where it's just chill. You don't need to be banging shoulders with lads moving up the bunch if you're going off dropping bottles up to a teammate. You can, if you know people, you can just be like, hey, you know, Mark, let's throw that gap there. I'm going up there, and it's much easier.
Be sound.
Be cool. Pre-ride the course if you can, or if you can't, pre-drive the course is an interesting one. And the apps are getting quite good, which I think is worth plugging into my best bike splits if it's a time trial, Velo Viewer, My Epic Ride Weather for Wind Direction, or My Windsock. Both do something similar. I think that's a bit about it for me.
That would be really good. That would be something I would definitely want to do, is ride the course or drive the course. I think ride the course. Like, I haven't done much racing. I did a little bit of open racing last year, and the week before we actually club racing, should I say, we cycled the course, and that gives you such an edge.
And you crashed.
I was crashed out. Excuse me. Okay, the very best of luck with your first open race, listener.
Roadman, whether you're a weekend warrior or a world tour rider, the right tools can make all the difference. Enter 4i's Precision 3 Plus Power Meter, the latest innovation from 4i, designed to help you reach peak performance. The Precision 3 Plus Power Meter is a compact yet powerful unit. It weighs just 9 grams, and it's packed with features that set it apart, including integration with Apple's Find My network, giving you the peace of mind by letting you track your power meter wherever it is. Plus, you've got up to 800 hours of battery life. We all know that accuracy is key, and 4i's delivers a groundbreaking plus or minus 1% accuracy thanks to their unique 3D strain gauge technology. For those seeking even more data, the Precision 3 Plus Pro Power Meter offers dual-sided power meter metrics, giving you detailed insights into pedaling efficiency, torque effectiveness, and left-right balance. 4i's offers versatile product options to suit your needs. Choose from ride-ready power meters with pre-installed units on Shimano cranks, or up for factory-installed power meter, where you send in your crankset for a custom installation. Ready to elevate your cycling game? Trust 4i's Precision 3 Plus Power Meter. Precision, performance, and peace of mind all in one. Learn more by visiting 4iiii.com. That's 4iiii.com. I'm going to put that in the description down below.
Okay, next question. What's the etiquette when it comes to racing local crits when you're already a Cat 1 and know you'll be stronger than most of the field? Is it frowned upon to show up and go full gas, or is that just racing? There's a guy that's been showing up to our local club Wednesday night crit and crushing everybody physically and, I guess, mentally too.
If you have numbers on your back, you're in a bike race. There's no going easy on people. It's stronger than most of the field. All he's done is explained what a Cat 1 is. Cat 1s are going to be stronger than most of the field. The only people that are going to be as strong as Cat 1s are pros or other Cat 1s. So typically midweek races especially are handicapped to make the race a little bit fairer, which I don't love the idea of handicaps. It's a penalty for being fit and training more. Yeah, I kind of philosophically object to the idea of those handicaps in races. I typically haven't supported a lot in open race format when they're handicapped. I don't like the idea of them. If it's like a local club league and it's more of a training environment, I can kind of see his argument where you're still fully entitled to go full gas if you're Cat 1 and win every single race and pummel people into dust because it's a bike race. But at a point, maybe it's just not that fun and you want to mess around and try different things.
Could you also stay with the group, not try and win, and maybe help people and show them how to position or show them how to corner, show them how to get out of the wind or help in some way? Because
possibly, but it's a race.
Yeah, but if I'm talking about the club split, club spins rather. He did say crit.
Local
club Wednesday night crit. I don't know. We've had, because Roadman were still like a small-ish club, we jump in with another amazing club, the Swords Club League, on a Wednesday night. So we don't get to make the rules. We follow the rules and we go there. And there is, Johannes, one of our strongest riders, when he shows up, he does get handicapped quite significantly. And they make him go off about 3 or 4 minutes behind everybody. I think they kind of feel that in the essence of fairness for a club league, that is the correct thing to do for them.
Well, everyone is handicapped in a club league, not just... So it starts off in limit. It's a 40 kilometer or 1 hour race normally. So you've 4 or 5 different groups. The challenge was last year that one of our riders was a little bit stronger than the rest of the scratch riders, so they had to create a super scratch groups, just one more group on the road. But it's not just him that's handicapped. Every single person in the race, unless they're in the front group, is handicapped, with the idea of fairness, because it's a little bit more of a learning environment.
Do you think it would be a win for you to go to a Wednesday night club crit, you being a Cat 1 rider, and absolutely annihilating everybody and winning by 2 or 3 minutes? Is that something that you personally would do or get any sense of achievement out of?
It depends on where you're at with your training and what you're trying to do. If you're trying to get ready for an upcoming race and you want a really hard night, and that's what you want, is to attack 35k from home to try and hold off, you're going to get a hard night doing that. So yeah, I think it just depends on where you're at, and it wouldn't be something I would show up like, you know, I'm trying to think back to the times when I've been going really well in the Swords Club League. I've often just used it more as training, like a fast chain gang, where I might try and do 2 hours before, an hour and a half after, or maybe even done a hard session that morning and I'm trying to get another hard session. Not necessarily going to win because of the pride of winning the local club league, more looking for a training effect. But look, it's horses for courses, it's a bike race.
And so what do you think the advice is for this guy? Just leave the Cat 1 rider at it.
None of your business.
None of your business. Okay.
Mind your business.
Okay, next question. I always see riders standing up to sprint out of corners, even on easy rides. Are they showing off, or is there actually a benefit to this? Should I be doing it too? This seems like a very advanced move. I've certainly never done this.
Do you not stand up out of corners?
Oh, maybe I do. Maybe I do.
I think everyone stands up
Do
out
they?
of corners. That's why that was a weird question.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Maybe if people aren't comfortable or total newbies, they wouldn't get up out of the corner. But when the pace is high or the group is strung out, getting back up to speed fast kind of matters. So like if you think of a sprint finish in any bike race, no one's seated in a sprint finish. There's a reason they're out of the saddle, because you can generate
more power,
more force, and you can accelerate faster. So getting up to speed matters, and standing up gives you more leverage to apply force and power quickly, especially if you've lost a bit of momentum in the corner. So if there's a small gap that's opened out of the corner, you haven't taken it particularly well, standing up is going to help you close that gap very fast before it grows. I can actually picture now that you're talking about 1 or 2 people in our group, and I've been behind them coming through a corner, and instead of just standing up and just like 2-3 accelerations, they end up almost in a 60-second time trial to catch the wheel on front. But if you've corner after corner, that starts getting really, really fatiguing.
So get out of the saddle and put the power down. Yeah,
well, it shifts the load more onto your glutes, calves, and you can utilize your upper body a bit, which gives your usual pedaling muscles a break as well. So I kind of do it also to relieve pressure on my ass a little bit. Just the corners, a little bit of a break. I can, sprint, freewheel out of the saddle for a second, and then sit back down the saddle. And when I was on the tandem, that was difficult, and I found that for the first time, because standing on a tandem with a visually impaired rider on the back requires a lot more coordination than standing on the bike yourself. So a lot of new tandem riders can't get out of the seat on the tandem. So when I started riding the tandem, I couldn't get out of the seat, and I really found that fatiguing on both my ass, as in like the physical pressure on my ass, but also my glutes from not getting out of the, sorry, not my glutes, your glutes. Your glutes is your ass, isn't it? Yeah. So my glutes were like super fatigued from just sitting there all day long. Yeah, I think that happens to me sometimes in the middle of winter when I'm doing the day after day of indoor training, because you're not really getting out of the saddle at all when you're on the indoor trainer. Okay, next question. Hey everybody, let's take a quick break to talk about the bike I'll be riding this season, Reap. I've been lucky enough to ride all the top brands in the world over the past few years, but these Reap bikes, they're not the same, and I'll tell you why. Reap is the first company I've seen that isn't chasing sales targets and the mass market. They're chasing something very rare: perfection. Every bike they make, it's crafted in the UK factory, and it's not about slapping a Made in Britain label on a bike from a Chinese factory. It's about control. From the first sketch to the final build, they're hands-on, ensuring that every detail is dialed in. That's very rare in an outsourced world of mass production. What sets them apart is innovation. While others pump out the same old designs, Reap's pushing boundaries. They're not following trends, they're setting trends. Think precision and performance, like an F1 car for the road. Absolutely no compromises. And it shows, and you can feel it when you ride the bikes. These bikes are built for riders who demand the best, whether they're chasing podiums or just want a machine that feels like an extension of your body, a piece of art. It's not hype, it's substance. Ride a Reap for yourself and you're riding something crafted with intent. So if you're serious about cycling, check them out. It's reapbikes.com. I absolutely love my one and I couldn't recommend it highly enough. Back to the show.
Last week, I was doing my turn on the front and without really thinking, I eased off and started to freewheel for a few seconds. I already know what you're going to say about this. When we got to the coffee shop, the lads were calling me out on it. I'm confused. Are you not supposed to freewheel ever on the front? I think I've heard you talk about it before, but why is it so bad?
It's a harsh group if you only freewheel for a couple of seconds. And they were here at the coffee shop. I will say that. But freewheeling in general on the front, it's kind of a death sentence.
You don't like freewheeling ever? Like freewheeling is...
Well, if you're in the wheels, you can freewheel all day long if you want, but if you're letting a gap open to someone behind you and now you're sprinting to close the freewheel
they
gap,
have to close it behind you.
Well, let's focus on his question. Freewheeling on the front. You're on the front and you stop pedaling, even if it's only for a couple of seconds. Now the rider behind you has to adjust. So he either has to sit up to hit a little bit more wind, or he has to touch the brakes, or he has to overlap wheels, which start getting dangerous. That's the rider in second. That cascades back to the rider in third, fourth, fifth, and now you're the rider in 40th. And this is becoming quite a big lock-up for the rider in 40th. Like that disruption ripples back like a little slinky effect all the way through the group. It messes up the rhythm, and especially this is magnified if you're going fast, if it's a chain gang, a pace line, something like that. In a bunch, if you're freewheeling on the front, it usually suggests you're done your turn and you're about to swing off and let someone else through. You're slowing down because maybe there's an obstacle or an obstruction ahead or there's danger ahead. If you're not actually peeling off and you slow down on the front, it's very confusing and it can create near misses and it creates frustration. The group ends up with this surge brake pattern. It's stop-start. It burns more energy. It's more dangerous. It's fatiguing both physically and mentally. And in the winter as well, if you have people freewheeling on the front, everyone behind is just freezing. If you're zone 2 on the front, I'm typically zone 1 or like barely pedaling in behind. So I always say most riders need to be zone 3, zone 4 on the front, unless your level is really high compared to the rest of the group. And then you can ride, like if I'm going well, I can ride zone 2 on the front of the group. And most people behind are still in at least zone 2, if not zone 3. But if you're a newbie, you need to be zone 3 or zone 4 power on the front to keep it moving. You want to keep the pace. It's like a team time trial. I spoke with Alex Dowsett the other day about this, and we're saying, do they use like software now to map out how hard someone's turn is? Like historically, you would have said if you're on the front, you need to be doing 7 watts per kilo in a team time trial to keep the speed on the front. But it's actually not about that, because then you have someone trying to like just... say if their target power is like 450 watts, now you have someone, they're on 440, so they're surging a little. They're on 460, they're easing up a little, and it creates that surgy sense as well. You want just people to maintain the speed. So that's the key thing, is maintain the speed of the group. Yeah,
this kind of cracks me up because I'm just like imagining him on the front freewheeling, and there's, he's having a great time freewheeling, and there's utter chaos behind him. As you said, people slamming on the brakes, people overlapping wheels, and he's just completely oblivious. But that's the whole point about riding in a group, isn't it? It's supposed to be this lovely, smooth, it's very flowy. Kumbaya. It just feels like, and then if you've got someone up the front who is braking hard, he's freewheeling, he's slowing down, he's surging, it just disrupts that lovely group ride feel that you get when everything is kind of in synergy and stuff. So yeah, I totally agree.
The one exception I'd say is if you're freewheeling on a big downhill.
Yes, yeah, that's allowed. Okay, next question. Sarah, you mentioned that you're injured last week and that it was down to changing cleats. I want to move from red to yellow Shimano, but obviously I don't want to do this and get injured. How do I do this?
My question would be why?
Yeah, I know. I did actually send this person back another email and they didn't get back to me to ask why. And I was wondering, I did put a little bit of research as to why somebody would do this.
Well, red is zero float.
Yeah.
And that's float means side to side movement. Yellow is 6 degrees of float.
Yeah.
So that means you can float 3 degrees in and 3 degrees out. And that gives your knee and your hips a little bit of wiggle room.
But we also have blue in the middle. That has, I think it's 3 degrees float.
1.5 each side?
Yeah. So I think somebody would want to change. Again, this listener didn't specify why, but if the yellow feels very racy, doesn't it? You're very locked in.
And I think if you're not injured, like I discard that idea of feeling racy.
Exactly. Why change it? I mean, the only reason that I changed mine is because I was utterly naive, and I had been on yellow. I went to blue, not really thinking that it would make that much of a difference. Loved the blue. It felt great. And then my blue cleats wore out, so I went back to yellow because that's all they had in the shop, and that's when I started getting
Do you think they were just colours like different colour bikes?
I just thought they were like pretty colours.
I like the way the red one looks.
The blue goes better with my outfit, but I honestly didn't have any idea as to the ramifications that it had. So please be super careful if you're planning on changing cleats. I'm literally out off my bike for almost 3 weeks over it. I was chatting to one of the guys on the group spin last week, Will, and he was saying that he is trying to make the changeover from yellow to red because he finds that his foot naturally tracks in. So you will have different reasons as to why people want to change. So is there a good way to do it?
I think match the position of the cleat. You can draw it with a marker, put it around, but then even when you do match it, it's like how I would transition into a new set of shoes. I don't transition in one day. I'll typically ride like 10 minutes on the trainer on the first day and build it up to doing a 90-minute outdoor ride over 10 days. But I'm just literally at the end of a ride, I'll do a cool down on the trainer indoors in the new shoes. Next day, I might do a warm up before my actual ride in the new shoes and then change into my old shoes and do that over a 10-day period.
Yeah, I think as well, if you're feeling... So there's going to be an adjustment. 6% or 3%, 3 degree float or 6 degree float doesn't feel like a lot. And when you change your cleat and you've got that little bit more movement in your foot, it's going to feel so minimal. You're going to be like, this is not going to affect me, you know, in any way, shape or form. But because you're doing so many rotations, like your cadence is 80, you know, per minute. And if you put that over a 3 or 4 hour long ride, that's eventually going to have a ramification on your muscles, your ligaments, and for catastrophic for me.
And for the person you're living with, because they'll have to listen to you.
Oh God, I love you. But so what I would say is, as Anthony said, do it nice and slowly. But also if you're feeling any kind of severe pain, if you're getting any swelling at all, maybe consider, you know, something else, and definitely don't be shy going to your physio. But for me,
if you've got severe pain, it's probably too late.
It's too late. Yeah, exactly. Don't ignore the pain like I did.
Roadman, thank you for tuning in to another edition of Rider Support. I hope you enjoyed it. We've left a link down below to the Roadman toolkit, and that has the pre-ride breakfast calculator to tell you exactly how many grams of carbohydrates you need before your ride. It's in the link, whether you're listening on podcast or YouTube down below, so go and check that out. Also, there's another video up here which I know you're going to love. Take a moment if you enjoyed this to share it into your club WhatsApp group, and please subscribe to the channel. See you next day.